But take a look at a map. We still don't know, as Jillian said, exactly where Prigozhin is or where his 25,000 troops are. But this was a map of where they went over the weekend as they went north towards Moscow. They're about 125 miles out of Moscow. Then they made a sharp left after the deal with Putin, and it looked like they were going to Belarus right on top of that blue circle, which is Kiev, the capital of Ukraine. So there is a question of exactly where they might be going or whether this whole thing was actually some kind of a ruse. Let's welcome former U.S. Army General Jack Keane with us. So, General, let's just get that on the table. You can either shoot it off of the table or keep it. But could this have been a ruse that Putin and Prigozhin set up together in order to put his forces, the Wagner forces, just north of Kiev?
I don't see that whatsoever. The evidence doesn't support a ruse whatsoever. I mean, shooting down several helicopters and a fixed-wing command and control aircraft certainly is not part of a ruse. And reality is that Putin's forces are usually overrated. They left Bakhmut prior to the counteroffensive starting. They just didn't want to be any part of that. And they lost thousands of troops defending Bakhmut, conducting human wave operations into fixed machine gun positions time and time again. The Ukrainians were in absolute disbelief what they were dealing with. And many wanted the Ukrainians to get out of there because the Russians would eventually overwhelm them. And they said, no, we're going to stay here because this is a killing field and we don't have to fight these folks later. There's no ruse here. Putin would never take this risk to weaken his position inside his country and also internationally. After all, he's the strong man. He's for stability. He's invincible. And that is not what's been displayed here. Is internal security forces did not do a very good job at all of stopping what was a relatively small column, but by comparison to the size of Putin's army. Most of it's deployed in Ukraine, but not all of it. And he has internal security forces designed to protect his regime as well. We did forecast that Prigozhin's forces could get inside of Moscow, but they would not be able to topple the regime. And what we do know is that Prigozhin was actually counting on defections, senior military generals from the Russian military to come to his side. He was really looking for General Surovikin, who at one time was in charge of the war in Ukraine for Russia. And I'm assuming they had some kind of conversation that led Prigozhin to believe that. Yeah. But actually, when the rebellion began, David, Surovikin came out and condemned it as betrayal and treason. I mean, his looking for a deal came about as a result. He never got any support inside of Russia from the Russian generals.
Well, very quickly, General, because we're running out of time, but what does this do to the military, to the Russians? I mean, they've lost the support, it seems, of a lot of the members of the Wagner brigade, but what does it do to the morale of the rest of the military?
Well, I think you put your finger on it. As this eventually gets distributed among the soldiers and they hear about this from family, friends, their own iPhone connections, literally it's going to lower their morale in an organization that already is poorly led and has low morale. So I think that it'll have some impact. Now, Prigozhin studiously avoided disrupting the headquarters, even though he took control of it and surrounded it. So the Southern Military District was still overseeing operations in Ukraine, and he let all the military flights out of Rostov flow into Russian-occupied Ukraine that needed to do so. But it will have some impact, for sure. And certainly the counteroffensive is underway. It's going to take time. The Ukrainians are being very deliberate. They don't want to waste their troops attacking into minefields and other obstacles that are out there. They're working at night using night vision goggles, and hopefully we're going to see some progress here in a few weeks when their main attack takes place.
Gotcha. General Jack Keane, great to see you, General. Thanks so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Yeah.